We've all seen those images, right? The seamless military funeral procession winding through Arlington National Cemetery,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe a head of state stepping onto the White House lawn, greeted by this honor guard that looks, I don't know, almost impossibly perfect, like a single unit.
Yeah, they look sculpted, don't they? And that's really the ultimate
An
illusion.
illusion. How so?
Well, behind that veneer of perfect execution, there's some of the most intricate, step-by-step bureaucratic machinery in the entire Department of Defense. Seriously. We're talking massive operational plans laid out in almost excruciating detail.
Okay, so today we're doing a deep dive straight into that machinery. We're looking at the regulatory framework that dictates military ceremony right here in the National Capital Region.
That's right. Our source material is basically the rule book from the U.S. Army Military District of Washington, MDW, specifically Regulation 1 to 6, which covers funerals, and 1 to 9 for joint service ceremonies.
And our mission today, for you listening, isn't just to read you some dry manual.
No. Definitely not. Think of it as a shortcut, a way to understand how MDW manages to orchestrate both these incredibly somber farewells and these really spectacular diplomatic greetings.
Coordinating across all the services, too.
Exactly. Army, Marines, Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard, and yeah, sometimes now the Space Force, too. That's 5, sometimes 6 branches. Making sure every single movement, every musical note, every salute is just perfect.
So let's start at the top then, the command structure. You can't get that kind of synchronization without someone firmly in charge, right? Who is the ultimate orchestrator.
Right. That responsibility, it falls squarely on the commanding general of MDW, the CG.
Okay.
They're the senior military commander who basically takes all the guidance from the U.S. Code, from DoD directives, individual service procedures, and boils it down into one coherent, actionable plan.
So they're the single point person.
Essentially, yeah. They're the one executing these ceremonies on behalf of the president, the Secretary of Defense. It's all about that centralized command ensuring, standardized execution. Doesn't matter if it's at the Pentagon parade field or Arlington.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, let's shift gears then and get into maybe the most sacred and standardized of these rules.
Yeah.
MDW 1 to 6. That's the blueprint for military funerals and honors, particularly at Arlington National Cemetery, ANC.
Yeah, ANC is sort of the focal point for a lot of this.
So what are we actually talking about when we say full military funeral honors? What does that entail for, say, an active duty service member or a retiree?
Okay, yeah, the regulation is super clear on this. Full honors means a 9-member team. Specifically, that's 6 personnel who serve as both pallbearers and the firing party.
Oh, dual role, okay.
Right. Then you have a chaplain, an officer or non-commissioned officer in charge of the OIC or NCOIC. And, of course, a bugler for taps.
And what do they actually do?
The team handles the pallbearing, the very precise folding of the flag, the firing of the 3 rifle volleys, and the playing of taps. Critically, though, the flag itself is presented to the next of kin by someone from the deceased's own parent military service.
Ah, so the Army presents for a soldier, Navy for a sailor, and so on.
Exactly. It maintains that specific service connection right at the end.
Now, let's talk about the absolute highest level. Honors for a president, a former president, or even a president-elect. The protocol here sounds like it shifts gears pretty dramatically. It's almost like an immediate crisis response, isn't it?
It really is immediate. And the rules for this, they actually come from a higher Army regulation, AR 625. It dictates this incredibly precise acoustic choreography, you could call it.
Acoustic choreography, explain that.
Well, it starts the day after the official notification of death. From reveille, so sunrise, to retreat, sunset, 1 cannon is fired every half hour.
Every 30 minutes. All day long.
All day long. It's like this somber, steady metronome marking the nation's loss across the Capitol.
Wow. And then the day of the interment itself, that's when the Presidential Salute Battery at Joint Base Myer-Henderson Hall really comes into play, right? With 2 big salutes?
Correct. 2 very distinct salutes. First, at noon, they fire a full 21-gun salute. But here's the thing. The rounds are spaced out, fired at 1-minute intervals.
A full minute between each shot. That must feel incredibly drawn out and solemn.
Deeply solemn. It creates this very spaced, resonant rhythm. Then, later in the day, right after they lower the flag at retreat, there's a second major salute. This one equals the number of states in the Union at the time.
Okay, so 50 guns currently.
Right, and these are fired rapidly, at 5-second intervals.
Whoa, okay, that's a completely different feel. 1 minute versus 5 seconds?
Exactly. That contrast is absolutely deliberate. The 1-minute interval is pure, heavy reflection. The 5-second interval creates this rapid, almost overwhelming crescendo of sound, a sharp final farewell.
It's amazing how much thought goes into just the timing of the sounds.
It really is acoustic choreography, designed to evoke specific emotional responses using the same hardware. And, that entitlement ladder for gun salutes, it scales down very precisely based on rank.
Right, you mentioned 21 guns for the president or former president. That's arrival and departure.
Correct, both times. But then it drops.
How much?
The vice president, cabinet secretaries, the secretary of defense, they receive 19 guns, but only on arrival.
Early arrival. Interesting. And military leaders.
A 4-star general or admiral gets 17 guns.
Huh.
Still a significant honor.
And it keeps going down.
Oh, yeah. Lower ranks get fewer guns, like a brigadier general or a rear admiral lower half. That's 11 guns.
Yeah.
Every single level has a specific number spelled out. It ensures that even in moments of grief or high ceremony, the protocol is just perfectly observed, non-negotiable.
Okay, let's throw a wrench in the works. Mother Nature. You can plan everything down to the second, but, weather happens. Especially in D.C. How detailed are the contingency plans?
Surprisingly detailed and very practical, actually. They have explicit temperature thresholds that trigger different actions, all based on risk to the personnel and the equipment.
So extreme cold.
Defined as 10 degrees Fahrenheit and below. In that case, postponing the funeral is actually an option on the table.
Really? Postponement.
Yes. Or they can modify the honors, maybe reduce what's called military funeral honors with escort, or MFHE, down to just military funeral honors, MFH. That means fewer people out in the cold.
Makes sense. Less exposure.
Right. And crucially, in extreme cold and also extreme heat, the caisson, the horse-drawn carriage.
Yeah, the iconic part.
That and the presidential salute battery, the cannons, they might actually be suspended, not used.
For safety of the personnel, I assume.
Personnel and equipment.
Mm-hmm.
Cannons might not function reliably in extreme cold, and you don't want troops standing out unnecessarily.
And the other end, extreme heat.
Same idea. 110 degrees Fahrenheit and above is the trigger. Similar modifications are possible. Reduce personnel, potentially suspend the battery.
And the caisson.
Yes, and this part really stands out to me. The regulation specifically says the caisson might not be used if the health of the military working horses is at risk.
Wow. They actually wrote in protection for the horses.
They did. It's kind of a remarkable inclusion, isn't it? It shows that this intense commitment to flawless procedure is actually balanced by a very real commitment to welfare, even the welfare of the animals that make the ritual possible.
So MDW's job includes, veterinary risk assessment alongside military command.
In a very practical sense, yes. That level of detail is just staggering.
Okay, let's pivot now. From that solemn reverence of funerals to high-stakes diplomacy, let's talk MDW Regulation 1 to 9. Joint service ceremonies for visiting bigwigs, chiefs of state, heads of government. This is spectacle as statecraft.
Absolutely. And the gold standard here is probably the Armed Forces Full Honor Arrival at the White House, the AFSA-DWH. This happens when the Department of State directs it for a high-level visitor. And the core elements are rigid. The arrival itself, the rendering of full honors according to AR 625, then the walking inspection of troops, and finally, remarks by the leaders.
And when you say full honors here, the scale must be huge. This isn't just the 9-person team we talked about for funerals.
Oh, not even close. We're talking marching platoons, usually organized in 3 ranks of 9 files. That adds up to 135 marching personnel right there, drawn from all the services, plus a joint staff of officers, the Joint Armed Forces Color Guard.
The main flag detail.
Right, and the state and territorial flags, the S&Ts, and, of course, the gun salute battery ready to fire the appropriate salute. It's a massive production.
And a key visual element is the cordon, right? Explain that.
Yeah, the cordon is basically that line of troops you see. It can be used to honor someone, like lining a pathway, or sometimes to secure an area. For really high-level protection, they deploy what's called the 21-man weapons cordon.
Weapons cordon. Sounds serious?
It looks serious. They're in full ceremonial uniforms, but they're armed with rifles, usually with fixed bayonets. It sends a very clear visual message: respect, but also absolute readiness.
Okay, back to weather. What happens if that magnificent outdoor White House arrival gets rained out? There's an inclement weather ceremony?
There is, and the regulation gets fascinatingly specific, almost theatrical about it.
How so?
Okay, so if it moves indoors, the big marching band element and the fife and drum corps, they're released, they don't participate inside. But that 21-man weapons cordon, they do move inside.
Armed cordon indoors.
Yes. But here's the detail. To keep the indoor space, maybe the White House East Room or somewhere, pristine, they enter wearing their inclement weather gear, raincoats, overcoats, whatever.
Okay, makes sense. Keep the mud out.
Right. But immediately after entering, they have to execute a rapid mandatory uniform change. They ditch the inclement gear and are back in their proper ceremonial blouses.
Why? Why not just stay in the rain gear? Seems practical.
Because the goal is absolute visual perfection, indoors or out. The ceremonial blouse is the standard for the highest honors. That outer garment is purely logistical, just for the transition. It shows the incredible lengths they go to maintain that flawless image no matter what.
That dedication is something else. Okay, let's move to maybe the most sacred ground.
Yeah.
Arlington again, specifically the Tomb of the Unknown Soldiers. The Armed Forces Full Honor Wreath Ceremony for the President or visiting dignitaries. That sequence must be the most tightly controlled of all.
It absolutely is. It's extremely slow, deliberate, and precise. The dignitary first moves through a cordon made up of those state and territorial flags.
Okay.
Then comes the actual wreath-laying sequence. This
Yeah.
involves the playing of 4 muffled ruffles on the drums. They're these fast but very low-volume drum rolls, almost a whisper.
Muffles, ruffles, got it.
Immediately followed by taps. And after taps finishes, there is a mandatory 30-second period of complete silence, during which all participants remove their hats or render appropriate honors. Just silence.
30 seconds of silence. That must feel like an eternity in that setting.
It's powerful. And think about the resources just to manage the edges of that ceremony. You need a 120-man street cordon lining the route into the amphitheater area. You need plaza guards near the tomb itself, chapel door openers, wheelchair bearers, just in case, ushers. Every single possible role is pre-assigned to ensure absolutely zero confusion.
That level of detailed casting, as you called it, really brings us into the final piece here. The intricate, behind-the-scenes logistics needed to make any of this joint service stuff actually work.
Yeah, synchronization is the name of the game. And it's tough when you have, 6 different service cultures, uniforms, traditions, all trying to move as one.
Let's use the joint casket team as maybe the most sensitive, poignant example of that resource sharing. How does that work?
Okay, the Joint Casket Team, or JCT, needs 8 people total, and the services contributing are weighted very specifically by the regulation.
How so?
The Army provides 2 members. Crucially, one of those Army members must be the casket team leader, and they have to be an NCO, a sergeant.
Ah, so the Army provides the leadership.
Yes. Then the Marine Corps also provides 2 members, and then you get 1 service member each from the Navy, the Air Force, the Space Force, and the Coast Guard. That makes 8.
Why mandate the Army NCO as the leader? Why not rotate that? Seems like a truly joint role.
That's a good question. My read is it's about institutionalizing the knowledge and ensuring consistency. Since MDW itself is an Army command, and they oversee the vast majority of ceremonies and logistics at Arlington,
Right.
requiring an Army NCO to lead the JCT guarantees there's always someone in charge who has deep firsthand knowledge of the specific MDW regulations, the Arlington procedures, the whole 9 yards. It ensures continuity.
Okay, that makes sense from a command perspective. And speaking of the Army, you can't talk about ceremonies in D.C. without talking about the 3rd U.S. Infantry Regiment, right? The Old Guard.
Absolutely not. They are, in many ways, the backbone of the actual execution. They're the ceremonial force multiplier for MDW.
What specific roles do they fill that are mentioned in these regs?
A ton. They provide the caisson platoon, with the horses and the caisson itself. They provide the military working horses. They man the Presidential Salute Battery. And they provide all those specialized ceremonial logistics folks we mentioned, the chapel ushers, the Arlington lady drivers, things like that. They're purpose-built for this.
So to coordinate this huge cast, the Old Guard, the joint elements, the bands, you need a strong administrative team at MDW.
Definitely. The regulations mention key directorates. There's the Ceremonies and Outreach Directorate, CODU. They're the ones developing the incredibly detailed plans and the tasking notices that go out to all the units involved.
Like the script for the whole event.
Pretty much, yeah. And then critically, you have the Provost Marshal, the PM Military Police. Their role is huge.
Security, obviously.
Comprehensive security. Everything from perimeter security at the event site to traffic control on the surrounding roads, managing the press areas, and providing those crucial police escorts for any cortege movements like a funeral procession.
And even the music isn't just music, is it? There's a command function there, too, with the U.S. Army Band, Pershing's Own.
That's a fascinating detail. They obviously provide primary musical support for many events, but the regulation also tasks them with verifying that all the national anthems used by all the different service bands are the current, correct, officially recognized versions.
Wow, so they're like the quality control for foreign national anthems.
Essentially, yes. You can imagine how important that is for diplomacy. Playing the wrong version of a visiting head of state's anthem would be a major incident. So Pershing Zone ensures that doesn't happen. It's a small detail that shows how ceremony and statecraft are intertwined.
Absolutely critical. And finally, none of this works without practice. The unseen preparation.
Right. The regulations mandate rehearsals. And they stress that these should be conducted as close to the actual ceremony date as possible so it's fresh in everyone's mind.
But there's something else too, right? Before the main event.
Yes. The mandatory pre-ceremony talk-through. This isn't usually a full physical rehearsal out on the field again. It's a final huddle, a mental dry run with all the key leaders involved.
And what's the purpose of that?
It's that last check to make absolutely sure everyone is mentally synchronized, on the exact same page about the sequence of events, the timing, every command cue like order, AR, MS, or present, AR, down to the second.
So that flawless execution we see.
It's because any potential hesitation, any point of confusion has hopefully been identified and smoothed out right before they step off.
Right.
Multiple times.
So wrapping this all up then, we started admiring this seemingly effortless precision. And what we found diving into these regulations is that the perfection is achieved through embracing the most rigorous, detailed bureaucracy imaginable.
It really reveals this profound, deep-seated commitment to absolute procedural perfection. It doesn't matter if they're mourning a former president or welcoming a crucial ally. Every single detail is thought through, choreographed, documented in advance. For MDW, ceremony isn't just fluff. It's a core operational task.
The sheer amount of human effort, logistical planning, and resources poured into ensuring that respect and national representation are executed flawlessly. It's genuinely staggering when you think about it.
It really is.
So maybe the final thought for you listening is this. What does this intense level of procedural dedication, where, as we saw, even the health of the horses is written into the contingency plan, what does that tell us about the core values embedded deep within military tradition, especially here in the National Capital Region?
Maybe it tells us that for MDW, and perhaps for the military culture it represents here, procedure is the ultimate expression of respect. It's how they manifest discipline, honor, and national stability in a tangible, visible, and repeatable way.
Procedure is respect. A
What?
powerful idea. And with that thought, we'll conclude our deep dive into the world of MDW regulations 1 to 6 and 1 to 9.